I'm Frank Alsheimer, and I'm the Science and Operations Officer here at the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm going to give you a little background on Professor Ted Fujita, who was the originator of the S scale, now the EF scale. Ted Fujita actually grew up in Japan, and he did his first surveying, unfortunately, after atomic bombs that dropped in Japan. So he came over to the United States and worked for the University of Chicago for a long time. The first tornado he surveyed was actually in Fargo, North Dakota in 1957, and he was a pioneer in a lot of areas in severe weather research, severe weather surveying, so not just tornadoes, but we'll get to that in a minute. What he was an expert on was taking very detailed measurements and taking pictures, first on the ground, and then as time went on, he started taking aerial photographs and being able, based on the pictures he took and the measurements he took, to estimate the strength of winds of tornadoes. Eventually, he published a paper in 1971. It was based on the Beaufort wind scale on the damage that he figured from the pictures that he took and the measurements that he took and turned them into a scale. That scale is known as the F scale and was adopted in 1973 by the National Weather Service as the gold standard for estimating damage. As I mentioned earlier, he didn't work just on tornadoes. Back in the 1970s, there were a rash of commercial airline accidents where airplanes were crashing right after takeoff and landing. And a lot of times these were due to thunderstorms. Ted Fujita had a theory that these were being caused by very strong winds that were coming out of the core of these thunderstorms, called microbursts, but they were too small to be measured by radar of the day. In 1975, after one such incident in New York, Eastern Airlines brought him in to do very highly detailed analysis of what happened with that incident. From there, through the measurements, he was able to define specifically what a microburst was and what caused it. Because of that, airlines were then able to start figuring out how to avoid microbursts, and microbursts have no longer been the cause of major airline crashes since then. He's also done a lot of work surveying hurricanes and did a very detailed survey after Hurricane Andrew hit South Florida in 1992, showing that the bands of the hurricane produced different hurricane wind speeds within it, indicating that it wasn't one big area of a specific wind speed, but that there were areas of concentrated much higher wind speed within the bands of the hurricane, rather than it being one large area of a specific sustained wind. Unfortunately, Dr. Fujita passed away in 1998, but he left a lasting legacy of surveying severe wind damage in the United States.